Donald Trump is named in the Epstein files multiple times. That is what the DOJ told Trump, according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal. CNN published these previously unseen pictures of Epstein and Trump. Here they are together at the opening of the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York in 1993.
Do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket
Foley with 12-year-olds.
Farmer said she recalled feeling scared as Trump stared at her bare legs. Then Epstein entered the room, and she recalled him saying to Trump, quote, "No, she's not here for you."
They were like, "There's no documents. There are no clients. There are clients, but they're all fake. They were planted by Obama. That doesn't make sense. That was in the first term, Trump term. I should have known by that. They were planted by Biden."
What is the best thing about being Donald Trump right now?
Well, other than the fact I'm married, okay?
Right.
And I'm very happily married. I have a great wife. But if I weren't married, I'd be able to get all of the girls I want, except for possibly Robin.
Do you think you could now be banging 24-year-olds?
Oh, absolutely. I have no trouble.
Would you do it?
I have no problem.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket,
Foley with 12-year-olds.
Thanks for clarifying, I guess. Last week, Wall Street Journal released an explosive report on President Donald Trump and one Jeffrey Epstein. Since then, a number of very creepy clips have resurfaced, like the one you just saw with Howard Stern. It was recorded in 2006. And we do have more where that came from. But first, Cenk, any of the stories really surprise you at all? I mean, Trump's been at this for years.
Yeah, so Trump's a well-known pervert, and we've covered him now, unfortunately, for over a decade on this. And so some of the clips, some of you'll go, "Oh yeah, remember when he did that?" And but they're very disturbing nonetheless, as you'll see in a minute. In this particular case, look, guys, I have mixed reaction to this. On the one hand, saying like they're joking, they're clearly joking around, and I think taking the jokes that people made decades ago overly seriously is not necessarily the right way to go. They're talking about a specific scandal about Tim Foley, that's a congressman at the time, and he said not as young as the 12-year-olds, etc. When Robin, by the way, was clarifying, she meant the upper age limit, but he immediately thought of the lower age limit and gave the number of definitely not 12. So as I give you the context of joking, blah, 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 Foley, nevertheless, like the idea that the number 12 would pop into your head is disturbing, right? Like that shouldn't be anywhere near the number that pops into your head. So, and there's a lot of those. If you add them all up, it begins to draw a picture for you. At the same time, I know what the MAGA guys say, and they, as upset they are as they are about Epstein files not being released, etc. They're used to making 1,000 excuses for Trump, so they'll find a way to say, well, that's hearsay, and he's over there is joking, and that one is kind of, but not really, etc. And to me, Sharon, what's most important is, yes, but like whether Trump is on the list or not, I really don't know. Whether Trump was great friends with Epstein, knew that he liked girls on the younger side, as Trump said, that we know with absolute certainty, right? So then what conclusion do you draw from that? That's very difficult, because I think that there's a couple of possible conclusions. But let's give you more of the stuff from the past.
Difficult, but not stopping people. 1992. Let's go there. Entertainment Tonight filmed Trump interacting with a group of young girls. When Trump asked, "You're going up the escalator?" a child's voice could be heard saying, "Yes." Trump then responded with, "I'm gonna be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Media fight with that one. 1991, Trump judged the Look of the Year modeling competition, which featured models as young as 14. Competition was run by John Casablancas. Some of the men in his orbit used the contest to engage in sexual relationships with vulnerable young models. Some of these allegations amount to sexual harassment, abuse, exploitation of teenage girls. Others, they're more accurately described as rape. We'll tell you what we mean. No such allegations have been leveled against Trump. Important to say that, but his close involvement in the contest does raise questions for the president. Did he know that Casablancas and others were sleeping with contestants? Why would a man in his 40s whose main business was real estate development want to host a beauty contest for teenage girls? The Guardian. Over the weekend, New York Times reported on a troubling incident from 1992 when Trump hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago for young women in a so-called calendar girl competition. Epstein was the only other guest. That's according to George Horanay, a Florida-based businessman who arranged the event. Honoray's then girlfriend and business partner, Jill Harth, later accused Trump of sexual misconduct on the night of the party. In a lawsuit, Harth said Trump took her into a bedroom and forcibly kissed and fondled her and restrained her from leaving. She also said that a 22-year-old contestant told her that Trump later that night crawled into her bed uninvited. Again, the New York Times with this reporting. Also worth noting that Virginia Giuffre was working at Mar-a-Lago when Ghislaine Maxwell first approached her. Giuffre stated that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her to Prince Andrew and other powerful men. She committed suicide earlier this year. Maria Farmer was another woman who states she was abused by Epstein and Maxwell. She had an encounter with Donald Trump in 1995. Goes like this. Late one night, Epstein unexpectedly called her to his offices in a luxury building in Manhattan, and she arrived in running shorts. Trump then arrived wearing a business suit, started to hover over her. She said she told the authorities. Farmer said she recalled feeling scared as Trump stared at her bare legs. Then Epstein entered the room and she recalled him saying to Trump, quote, no, she's not here for you. The two men left the room. Farmer said she could hear Trump commenting that he thought Farmer was 16. 1993, Epstein was dating a woman named Stacey Williams. That year, Epstein and Williams visited Trump Tower to say hello to Trump. Here's what Williams says happened next. As Trump and Epstein conversed, Trump pulled Williams toward him, touched her breast, waist, and buttocks, she said. It was like an octopus, she said. I was utterly confused and frozen. But this is a lot of stories, Cenk, over a period of decades. Different women who we have no reason to believe they all knew each other and concocted these stories. Pattern and practice, including one lawsuit that's already, E. Jean Carroll, I believe it is, reached conclusion where she said some of these same things about instant groping, forced kissing, the whole thing. So what do we make of this? What place does this hold in the larger context of what's being discussed right now in the media and bloggers and everywhere?
Yeah, so there's layers to this, right? So is Donald Trump a pervert? Yes, obviously. So like, I can give you a number of examples. And one of the ones is the teen contest that we've been talking about, the pageant. He bragged about how he could just go into the locker room anytime because he owned the pageant and he might catch them naked. They were as young as 14. That's super weird. So I guess you could say maybe he was trying to ogle the 18 and 19-year-olds and not the 14 and 15-year-olds, but that's a tough thing to hang your hat on. And so look, you can say it's in dispute. That one's not in dispute, okay? I know for everything related to Trump, everyone will dispute every part of it. We try to be super fair here and tell you what's real and not real. Okay, so you've got that. You've got slews of other, come on guys, you're gonna debate this. And you saw the video that Entertainment Tonight brought back. We covered that when it happened. I mean, he's looking at a girl who's tiny and saying can't wait to date her when she's 10. How does that cross his, I'm sorry, not when she's 10 years later. How does that even cross his mind when looking at like this tiny girl? It's uncomfortable. Does he like girls that are young, on the younger side? Well, okay, depends on what you mean by younger, but younger when he's in his 50s, 60s, 70s, and he's talking about a 24-year-old girl, definitely. The 22-year-old girl says he crawled in bed with her and touched her. He's got the teen pageant thing. He's got the 16-year-old with the nice legs and all that stuff, or what somebody he thought was 16. So when you put that together, does he like girls that are younger? Well, yes, of course, he said it, right? Girls that are 30, 40 years younger. And you could say if they're 24, man, that's no big deal. I get it, right? Then the question becomes, well, whether you agree with that or not, I get it, right? Then the question becomes how young? Well, that's a pretty important question, but has he sexually assaulted women before? Well, I mean, you could say, number one, we have like literal evidence from a trial. The jury in the E. Jean Carroll case found him to be at fault. Yeah, he did it. He's the one who sexually assaulted her, according to the jury's conclusions, and that's why he owed her money, etc. So now, look, again, they'll find excuses. No, it's in New York, it's this, it's that, I don't agree with it. How do you disagree with Trump on tape, in the Access Hollywood tape saying, yeah, when you're famous, you just grab them by the genitalia and they let you do it. It's overwhelming, guys. I mean, if you're pretending that Donald Trump isn't a pervert, doesn't grab women without their permission, and doesn't like them, generally speaking, young, you couldn't die on that hill, but the rest of us think you sound a little crazy, right? So, okay, now that doesn't mean that he did the Epstein thing. It doesn't mean he did anything illegal. So we don't know if he slept with someone under the age of 18. We just don't know that, right? On the other hand, if you say you definitely know that, well, that's just not true. We definitely don't know that, right? So, okay, now some people can look at that and go, I've heard enough. I can't stand this guy. And so is it believable that he'd be in the Epstein files? Well, at a minimum, it's certainly believable, right? I mean, given that they were friends for 2 decades, Trump said he was a terrific friend. Epstein said Trump was his best friend for a while, okay? So it's certainly believable. Do we know definitively that he's in the files? No, we don't, okay? And why don't we know? Oh, right, because Trump won't release them. Well, that's pretty convenient. I mean, he's the president, he could release it today. And if you're not in the files, by the way, I'd be pretty antsy to release them. If everybody was talking about how I'm in the files and I'm the president, I'm releasing them, give me 2 days to redact and they're out the door, right? And he had a whole first term to release them and chose not to. So all of that adds up to a pretty bad story, but nothing that we can say definitively broke the law, right? Now, last thing on this, Sharon, for me is, look, I think the intelligence agencies are in a panic to divert attention from themselves. And so there's a lot of leaks happening right now. And so now we're pointing to circumstantial evidence, as we just showed you, in Donald Trump's past. So is it conceivable that Trump's on the list and did something with the, of course. Is it also conceivable that he was great friends with Epstein, likes him young, but didn't break the law and they don't have him on tape or any other evidence? And it's the intelligence agencies just kind of leaking this stuff one by one so that people get distracted towards Trump and forget about the intelligence agencies? That's not impossible either. So I don't know. What do you think?
I tend to agree with you, just because there's a lot of smoke there, and just a way that the men in my orbit don't say things like that. The men in my orbit don't sit on the couch next to Joy Behar on The View with their daughter next to them and make comments about if she wasn't my daughter. And they certainly don't sexualize a 10-year-old. I mean, it's just the men I know don't do that. So I don't really have that reference point other than what's in the news over a course of time. So I tend to agree with you, but nobody knows for sure unless perhaps you were unfortunately a victim. Okay, I've not heard that related to Epstein and Trump, so we just don't know. I think it's until we know, we know. I'll leave the last word to you, but this next story I will say, Cenk, might have been written for you. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So before we get there, I am curious about the poll in the live chat. Shows live Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock, of course, and be part of the show. Will we ever find out if Trump was on Epstein's client list? And that's interesting. 46% saying that we will. Really? 54% saying no. I think I'd go no, but I'm not sure either. And so that's interesting. And to your point, Sharon, about men in your orbit, I'm a guy. I played football, I played rugby, I've been around a lot of guys and a lot of locker room talk and a lot of really racy stuff, right? So it's not like, I'm shy about it, I've never heard it. Oh golly gee, right? Have I heard, so I've heard guys joking about women a billion times, right? Have I heard them talking about, oh yeah, that 12-year-old? No, never, literally never. And I mean, you can go and you can give a time reference, like back in the 1980s, was it different? No, it wasn't different. Have I ever heard people joking about sleeping with their own daughter? No, never. And I mean, maybe others do. Maybe others joke around about 13, 14-year-old girls and sleeping with their daughter, but I've never heard it, and I've heard a lot. So, I mean, they appear to be at a minimum peas in a pod, Epstein and Trump, but we don't know how young it goes for Trump. Maybe it just goes to 18 and not 17. Again, if that's the thing you're hanging your hat on, not a winning strategy in my opinion. Although, last thing on it, just macro, there's the Epstein files. Who actually did it? Will we ever prosecute anyone? Will it ever come out? The second issue is about Trump. And like whether Donald Trump is a good moral leader for the country, that jury came in a long time ago, right? So if you're still holding on to him being moral and decent and wonderful, okay, I mean, you're the last of the Mohicans. You guys can get together with the guys who still think Biden is young and have a grand old time. But the rest of us, that jury has definitely come in, right? Yeah. The legal or illegal, that hasn't come in.
Yeah, I also think that, look, people are different. And just because someone colors outside the lines doesn't necessarily mean that, well, they're not normal. But Trump's not normal. And he's socially inappropriate at best, okay, with the things he says, because I think most people don't have a reference point for it. I once looked, this was recently, at my daughter. She has these beautiful little feet, and she always has since she was a baby. I said it in front of one of our long-standing family friends who's been in politics, so he's heard it all. And he said, I'm out of this conversation, okay? I don't want anything. I was just saying my daughter has beautiful feet and wanted no part of it, okay? That's not Donald Trump, okay? World of his own. Okay?
He might be like, hey, where can I look at him?
Yeah.
Like that's the type of thing Trump would do. Jesus, man.
The DOJ has just announced a meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, even though the DOJ had previously said that the whole Epstein case was essentially closed. So in a joint statement issued earlier this month, the DOJ and the FBI both said that after a thorough and exhaustive review of Epstein-related evidence, including images and videos of Epstein, underage victims, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography, this is what it said. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Cenk, I don't feel like this is gonna go over very well with the base. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is obviously an attempt to cover their ass, and you can't say, hey, investigation is over, there's no evidence at all. Oh, right, his main co-conspirator is in prison and we can talk to her anytime. So more about that hilarious part of that irony as we go on in the story. But there's one thing I'm gonna point out to the audience in a sec, is that a line in there that is in that statement that was, to me, was a little unbelievable. And so why don't I let you tell the rest of the story and then I'll come back with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the memo also reiterated that Epstein did in fact commit suicide, even though a lot of people feel like that isn't true. And they cited that all of the information that can be released has been released and that they are concerned about protecting the privacy of the victims. And that is, to some extent, very understandable. I think it'd be a much bigger problem if the DOJ and the FBI just started releasing basically child pornography to the public. But the thing is, no one is asking for that, right? We don't need or want more information about the victims. We want to know who are the people who have been exploiting them. And now we want to know why these people are being protected by our government. So today, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche released a statement which was shared by Attorney General Pam Bondi on X, saying the joint statement by the DOJ and FBI of July 6th remains as accurate today as it was when it was written. Namely, that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Therefore, at the direction of Attorney General Bondi, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government, and that changes now. So brave. And FBI Director Kash Patel quote tweeted that statement saying, "Get it." So the irony here, as others have pointed out, is that these are the heads of the DOJ and the FBI, the same departments that issued that joint statement 2 weeks ago. There's no way that all three of these people were not involved in drafting or at least releasing that memo. Of course, there's also the very careful wording around Trump authorizing the release of all credible evidence, and what is credible and what isn't is highly subjective. But speaking of Trump, let's check in with him. How is he doing? Not well, it would seem. In his most recent social media blitz, which was full of desperate attempts to distract attention away from the Epstein files, Trump invoked a name that he knows riles up his base every time, and that is the name of Obama. Here he is trying to sway the conversation in a way that is just generally less focused on his friend Jeffrey Epstein and himself.
As your former attorney would be conducting the interview, given?
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that.
Well, as if he wasn't sure if that would be enough of a hook for his base to latch onto, he threw out another old faithful, Hillary Clinton.
You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
So what is he even talking about? He is referring to claims made by Tulsi Gabbard that Obama either led or backed the effort to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 election, claims that have been wildly debunked even by a Republican-led Senate. Speaking of which, Obama's office put out a very rare statement just today responding to the allegations. They said, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. Anyway, Congress is currently at a standstill over Epstein disclosures, and in an effort to not vote on whether or not to release the files, Republicans in the House have just called off the votes that were originally on the docket. Congress is set to leave for a month-long recess at the end of the week, but we will see if that happens because Trump is actually now suggesting that they should skip it. But Cenk, I'm sure they're hoping that they'll just run out the clock on this week, go away for a month, And then by the time they come back, people will have moved on. Do you think that's a good strategy for them?
No, I don't think any of this is going to work. I'm going to tell you about 200 squirrels in a second, but I'm curious if anybody voted in one direction here. We're asking on the live chat, shows live 6 to 8 p.m. You know that. This is a good faith effort, or B, a smokescreen. This interview of Ghislaine Maxwell. Does anybody think it's a real good faith effort? I mean, because the very first question I'd ask is, well, no, apparently not too many. Okay, wait. Yeah, all right. Almost everybody says smokescreen. Because the first question I'd ask is, why did it just occur to you, right? So I'm going to get to the couple of lines that I think were super telling. So first, Delivery Ghost on our YouTube member section apparently agrees with me. Says, here we go again, don't look at the bad stuff about me, chase this squirrel instead. So let's start talking about those squirrels. So first, the lines that drew my interest. Well, during that video, he said, now the witch hunt you should be talking about is, and then he started talking about the Obama witch hunt. Like, Freudian slip alert, Freudian slip, okay? Something hasn't slipped that much on TV since Janet Jackson. Okay, then all of you agree. Marco Antonio writes in, this is all a bag of squirrels. So now, but the line that really drew my attention in the Todd Blanche statement, where he said, okay, all right, fine, we'll talk to Maxwell. He said, the FBI and DOJ will hear what she has to say. It's like he's doing us a favor. Like he's being really magnanimous. Like, fine, we will hear what Ghislaine Maxwell has to say. Why do we have to push you into it? Why did that never occur to you before? Oh, right, there's this co-conspirator, the biggest groomer in American history, the one he did all the crimes with. God, I can't believe I didn't think to ask her. And they think they're not insulting her intelligence. Come on, and he even phrases it that way. Okay, fine, we'll talk to her, okay? So they're giving the whole game away left and right. Another one of our members having trouble finding it now, but made it good. Oh yeah, and then the other 40 slip he had was Caddy Daddy pointed out, be a YouTube member to be part of the show. Hit the join button below or tyt.com/join. It wrote in, whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Donald Trump. That is what he said. If you rewind the tape, he's like, right or wrong, we're gonna have to go after them. I think you're only supposed to go after them if it's right, not if it's wrong. But hey, if you really want us to talk about your witch hunt, okay, I got it. All right. So now, first, the privacy of the victims is squirrel number one. Why? It's the easiest thing in the world to redact. Nobody's like, yes, and nobody's saying, I need to know about more personal information about the victims. No, we're all saying, don't tell us about the victims. And they're like, we can't because of the victims. Shut up, redacted documents, move on. It takes about if it's as many files as they say, what, a day, a week? You've got an army of people who work for you. So anyone talking about, oh, the victims is purposely trying to divert your attention, because that has nothing to do with this. It's like saying, oh, now you want me to root for the Kansas City Chiefs. What? That has nothing to do with this. Why are you bringing that up out of nowhere? What a random thing. Name me one person who said, I demand to know more information about the victims. You can't name one. Okay, so number two is the fake files, right? He's like, oh, the files don't exist, there are no clients. That's the first thing they say. Then Trump comes out and goes, oh, it's Obama and Biden and Comey and the other guy, Clapper, oh my God, oh, look, fake files. Okay, so that's squirrel number two. Squirrel number 3 through 198 is, we got to change the name of the Washington Commanders. Obama did it. What did he do? I don't know, we're looking into it. We've organized the witch hunt. Okay, Russia. You're gonna go back to Russia. Hillary Clinton's email service. Dude, when you go back to Hillary Clinton's email service, you might as well hang a giant neon sign in front of the White House. We're trying to distract you. Please send more squirrels. Are you gonna go back to stagflation of Jimmy Carter? Are you gonna be like, I can't believe Seward bought Alaska. We gotta go back and do investigations of Seward's folly. Okay, this is so obvious. All right, squirrel number 199. We're gonna release the grand jury testimony. Then you find out the grand jury testimony is like minuscule, it's microscopic. It covers less than 1% of the files. Okay, squirrel number 200 is, oh my God, we found Ghislaine Maxwell in prison. We're gonna go talk to her now. Okay, yeah. By the way, look, the people who actually did the crimes that we're apparently never going to find. We know the crimes, we know the victims. The only people we're not allowed to find out about is the perpetrators. For those folks, they have to be furious at the Trump team because they're like, you idiots. The way you do a cover up is you pretend you're looking into it. And then you release limited documents and go, oh my God, that's all we had. Golly gee, what could we do, right? But instead they're like, there's no documents. There are no clients. There are clients, but they're all fake. They're planted by Obama. That doesn't make sense. That was in the first term, Trump term. I should have known by that. They were planted by Biden, okay? So, yeah, okay, go talk to her. But you know what might happen? In fact, another member wrote this in. I want to see if I could find that one. I think it was on tyt.com. Oh yeah, Dirge said, with the narrative that the list is fake, manufactured, or missing, the stage is set for a Maxwell pardon. Like, it's possible that they go talk to her and they're like, oh, she gave us really important information about one of the people who did these horrible crimes. It turns out it was a guy named, is it just Jeff or Jeffrey? Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein. That she gave us information about him, so we're gonna let her go early. You think they won't do it? I mean, because they got orders, right? They get orders, and all of a sudden they say there is no list and there is no client, and then they all panic about diversions. So the people who gave him the order might told him, hey, you know what? Ghislaine's working for us. So I mean, that poor girl's been in prison for like 5 years or whatever, says an intelligence agency. You know what? Pretend you're going to solve the case, and meanwhile, give her less time. Like, I'm not saying it's definitely gonna happen at all, but it's not impossible because they've done such outrageous things. Now, if you're a right winger and you go, wait a minute, didn't Joe Biden cover this up too? Yes, he did. You look, if you go back to 2006, the evidence has been overwhelming. The tens of thousands of hours of tape. Obama had it, presumably after the 2006 arrest. Okay, but after the 2019 arrest, certainly Trump had it, Biden had it, Trump had it, has it now, right? And now you just discovered that they're porn. No one looked. Since 2006, but even if you don't say, okay, put that aside. Since 2019, not one person inside the government, including all the prosecutors, looked to see if there were clients on that tape or if it was just tens of thousands of hours of random porn. Like, no one in the government knew that. Come on. And okay, last thing for now. You know, as I look at read one article after another and look at cable news covering this, and every time they say Epstein killed himself and there are conspiracy theories that he might have had other clients. How could you call that a conspiracy theory? If you call that a conspiracy theory, like the government could come to you and say, your mom is an orangutan from Venus. And is a government said it, there's a conspiracy theory that my mom is actually human, but a ludicrous conspiracy theory. Obviously, my mom's an orangutan from Venus because the government said so. No, the conspiracy theory is that the girls raped themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so confusing because this whole administration has a very interesting relationship with the truth in general. And this is something that we're used to dealing with by now, right? Like, we're used to hearing them say one thing and then say something completely different the next day, and then criticizing people who believed them the first time they said something, right? And that's just been kind of the nature of these last 10 years. I mean, we were talking about Tulsi Gabbard earlier. Just a month ago, Trump didn't trust or value the things that she had to say, but now he's all about her. Whatever she says goes. A month ago, he said he does not care what she says in regards to a different issue, but it really is just a matter of convenience for him. And unfortunately, nobody on his side of the aisle, nobody in his most devoted base, none of them are gonna call him out for any of that. And whenever they're in charge of certain files and whenever they release things, like that's where things get a little bit confusing, especially for the base, because it's like, are you operating with the belief that the government is lying to you? Or are you operating with the belief that this administration, which is currently the government, is trying to help you and protect you and save you from whatever else like all the other governments had done prior? So I think that's part of the reason why we see a lot of flip-flopping and a lot of feelings on the right now where they really just don't even know how to feel for themselves, And really this is all very embarrassing for Donald Trump though. And I think to an extent, all of this, distracting people everywhere, it's kind of work. Maybe not the distractions are working, but what I think did give him a little bit of a leg up was when he called his supporters stupid. I think that actually sort of worked out well for him. But like, I don't know if you know what it's like to be in a cult. I don't know, I'm just assuming because I also have never been in a cult, but there's nothing worse than someone questioning your loyalty, right? There's nothing worse than disappointing your dear leader. And when Trump called them stupid, that's what he did to them. He said, I'm disappointed in you. You're not smart enough. You're playing right into the Democrats' hands. And there's also this level of cognitive dissonance there, where even if they were mad about all the Epstein stuff, they can hear Trump disparage his dumb supporters and convince themselves, oh, he's not talking about me. I don't even care about Epstein. I'm not one of the dumb ones. I've always been on his side. And ultimately, I think that could work out well for him. All this distraction stuff, it's so obvious what he's doing. We know what he's doing, but I think calling his supporters stupid might have actually been okay for him.
I don't know about that. I mean, if you're someone who gets off on being called stupid and it makes you follow that person even more,
yeah,
man, that is a different level of
Cenk, haven't we
masochism.
seen this before though? Like he's insulted his base so many times. I feel like in throughout history, from his 3 election campaigns,
I don't know. Yes, I don't know. Yes, no. I think both sides insult their own voters 1,000 times over. I mean, didn't Biden insult us by saying, "Oh, I'm young and dynamic, and I'm the best possible Democrat to run against Trump"? Oh, I'm not senile. My uncle was eaten by cannibals, and how many people on our side believe that?
Said that's not nice and that's crazy, and you're insulting our intelligence. And I feel
no, I don't think so.
Cult, you don't hear.
No, I don't think so. Yes, I don't believe that at all. I think until the debate, every media person, every leading Democrat, and unfortunately, and this is what is heartbreaking, tons of Democratic voters were like, "Yes, sir, you are the best Democrat to run. You are young and dynamic. I will believe you." So look, what I'm trying to say, is for all sides to snap out of it. There's a hypnosis that if your leader tells you something, it must be true. No, they're politicians. They're all lying sacks of crap, okay? Sorry, almost all, okay? But it's like, so Biden's a giant liar. Kamala Harris was never gonna do any of the things she promised. Obama didn't do any of the things he promised. So is Trump worse? Trump is worse, yes, okay? So that's why I voted against him 3 times. He's a lunatic, he's out of control, he does this stuff. But his base is actually, in a lot of ways, questioning him. And there's this idea that, the polling's holding for him. No, it's not. Now Politico's like, all mainstream media was like, the polling's fine. We checked the last hour, it's fine. Everybody move on from Epstein, right? And now all of a sudden, there's articles out going, yeah, there seems to be polling coming soon that doesn't look as well for Trump. We're not gonna tell you what it is yet, but it's almost like they're waiting to say, it must be something else that drove Trump's polling down. What's driving Trump's polling down is a lot of Trump voters are going, I'm not stupid, and I'm not gonna listen to this crap. So honestly, I think we should be giving them credit for that. No,
absolutely, yeah, and that's a really great point that you brought up the polling, because I feel like a lot of times you don't always see what's in the zeitgeist reflected in the polls, but I mean, like it's like a distinct correlation between everything that's going on and his numbers going down, and he already didn't have a great approval rating to begin with, So the fact that he's losing even more steam, you have to assume that it is coming from some of the people who weren't actively speaking out against him before, prior to all of this. And he did a lot of things to upset his own base that they still stuck by him for. So I want to be hopeful that this is the thing that finally breaks them. It seems to be going that way, but I am a little bit like a little uneasy about it. So.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, bottom line is, look, it's not about which one is worse, guys. Stop comparing the two. No, it's not Biden versus Trump. It's Biden and Trump versus the rest of us. Biden didn't release the files for 4 years either. Trump didn't release the files for 4 years before that. Trump's still not releasing them today. So is Trump more culpable because he might be on the list? Is Trump more culpable because he's the president right now and he's actively saying, I'm not gonna release it, I'm not gonna prosecute anyone? Sure, you could say he's more culpable, and I agree with that, right? But that's not the important part. The important and interesting part is that both parties and all of the US government is saying, we are never going to tell you who raped those girls. We are all together protecting the people who raped those girls. Okay, that's the iceberg. Like the partisanship and the tribalism is the tip of the iceberg. The iceberg is, no, there's the people in power are all lying to us and they're doing it to protect the powerful. So that's the most important part of this story. And you'll know there's accountability if someone is actually prosecuted. The rest of it is jibber jabber and a bunch of flying squirrels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will just say real quick, I mean, I think the reason why absolutely the Biden campaign did not release the Epstein files, and they could have and probably should have, but Trump, like he ran on this, and that is why it's getting such a backlash right now, and just wanted to point that out before we go to break.
Yeah, that's definitely true. He's the one who ran on it. Biden didn't run on it at all.
Yeah.
And it makes him more of a hypocrite at a minimum. No question about it.
Donald Trump is named in the Epstein files multiple times. That is what the DOJ told Trump, according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal. When Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the official said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the records isn't a sign of wrongdoing. Now, this is something many have long suspected, and former Trump administration official Elon Musk even let it slip earlier this year in a now-deleted tweet, writing on X, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." He replied, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out." It does seem like today was that day, at least officially. And this revelation makes recent comments by Trump on Epstein even more interesting when you go back and revisit them. Take a look.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
It's just unbelievable. Why would anyone want to ask follow-up questions? But back to the Wall Street Journal report. Justice Department officials told the president at the meeting that the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past, some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said they contain hundreds of other names. They also told Trump that senior Justice Department officials didn't plan to release any more documents related to the investigation of the convicted sex offender because the material contained child pornography and victims' personal information, the officials said. And it appears that one of Trump's most loyal supporters within the administration may have loose lips. FBI Director Kash Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files, according to people close to the administration. Patel declined to answer an inquiry from the Journal about the Epstein case, but said in a statement that the memo on the Justice Department website explaining why the department wouldn't release more Epstein documents was, quote, consistent with the thorough review conducted by the FBI and DOJ. And now there will likely be even more pressure on Trump and his administration after CNN published these previously unseen pictures of Epstein and Trump. Here they are together at the opening of the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York in 1993. And you might say, Well, that's just a coincidence. That's a semi-public event. There were probably a lot of people there. Well, here's Epstein at Trump's 1993 wedding, his second wedding to his second wife, Marla Maples, again in 1993. So, Brett, it seems like when there's smoke, there's fire. And despite the administration's denials, things are only getting more and more intense. What do you make of this?
I just want to know how up Donald Trump's bum you have to be at this point to believe a single word he says, right? Like when he shows up and he tries to, these aren't the droids you're looking for to the press when he's sitting there with Bondi and Marco Rubio. You have to understand, like he's sitting there obviously saying, don't talk about this thing because it incriminates me. Do you think that there is any other reason Donald Trump would say there's no there other than if we went there and looked around, we would find something horrible about him? Also, he ran on this stuff. He ran on this multiple times on the campaign trail. He says that he was going to declassify the Epstein files. He then tweeted from his official account on X that he was going to do that. It was a major point of pride, and he didn't do it for no reason. He did it because he wanted to get with the manosphere. He wanted to appeal to the people who are skeptical of the powers that be. He wanted to appeal to the folks that say, like, there's a uniparty out there and we need an outsider to get in and make some kind of ruckus to flush out all the bad people that are in the government. Here's the thing. If you're describing shady stuff that the quote deep state does, well, that stuff sounds a lot like what Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and crew have been talking about. There's Akash Patel on the Flagrant. He said, listen, like either he didn't know what was in the files and he wanted them to be released, fine. Or he knew there was nothing in the file, but either way, the guy was running on it. If he ran on it because he wanted to take advantage of this stuff. It's a horrible look no matter how you look at it. And it's hilarious because there's a bunch of people that were all in on the Epstein stuff. People like Charlie Kirk, right? And then in the wake of it, there's people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro who, when it comes to Epstein, all these people who are like, we got to be suspicious of the federal government, we got to be suspicious of people in power. Like, I'm gonna play you two clips right now back to back. And Ben Shapiro's kind of talking about the suicide stuff, but it's all stuff that's in the Epstein files that is super duper fishy. But this is what they changed their tune to when it seemed like Trump ran the risk of being incriminated publicly.
I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government.
I have the names of the people who are making the claim.
Okay,
well,
who are
no,
your
I'm not saying
sources?
they're
Let's go
invalid.
down the list and then we'll talk about why they might be saying that.
My sources are the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, the Deputy Head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General.
So in light of the Wall Street Journal article about this, like, buddy, those are all the people, like they are reporting like Kash Patel saying, oh my God, Trump's name's all over this thing. And then he goes on Rogan and he's like, don't you think if I had this stuff, I'd show it to you? Well, you told someone, according to this article, that you had tons of incriminating evidence. Like, and I know it says in the article, like, oh, if your name appears in the Epstein file, it's not wildly incriminating. Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Jordan just showed everybody photos of the guy at his wedding. I was at Jordan's wedding because I know him very well. People get like, he's at the dude's wedding wearing hilarious pants. They said they were friends for 10 years. What's going on? If you believe the people like Kash Patel and Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, people who only have stuff to gain from keeping this under wraps, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you anymore. And especially Jordan, how do you feel like you can handle the people who are like it felt like when Trump was just saying all this stuff to the right and to the manosphere, it was like he was trying to sleep with them, right? What do I got to say to get you in bed with me? But no one likes the person who's like, he's just after you for one thing, babe. Like, how do I not be the guy who's like, he was just trying to sleep with you and get your vote, babe, you idiot. How do I get that? What do we do now to those people? Or do you think they're gonna come back on their own?
I mean, I do think this is an instance of the base cannibalizing the Trump administration and like the core MAGA elite, because they have been strung along for years, promised transparency, promised answers, and through the broader, and I'd say part of it, the broader conspiratorial world, they have been conditioned over the years to think that sexual abusers and pedophiles are everywhere through QAnon and Pizzagate. And of course, we know those conspiracies are unfounded and have led to real world violence. But we've been saying for years, hey, if you are worried about this issue, look no further than this verifiable instance on a wide scale involving dozens, if not hundreds, of the elite. And Trump and his team leaned into it. They saw an opportunity. Hey, you're already conditioned to think this way. Here you go. We'll join you in caring about this. It was a total miscalculation, I think, on the administration's part to release the memo saying, hey, nothing here, nothing to see here, move along. I feel like if they continued to promise it was coming until some greater catastrophe happens, we wouldn't be in this situation. By doing that and telling everybody who had been promised answers, you remember those binders that they gave to those conservative influencers said phase 1. Okay, there's a phase 2. If you're labeling it phase 1, they're expecting more. And by doing that, they basically upset all of these people, millions of their own supporters who were expecting answers. So it feels like an unforced error. But I can't help but point out, we need to consider the bias here, because we're talking about an extreme left-wing publication in the Wall Street Journal who has for years done nothing but try to take Trump down.
It's so ridiculous, man. You're obviously joking, because the Wall Street Journal is the one that your conservative friend reads, because it's about the economy. Isn't it owned by Rupert Murdoch? Isn't that why he's getting sued as a result of it? Like, and they, I mean, maybe they've had it. And this is what Trump right now, this is another thing that Republicans do all the time. They realize they don't have to get it right the first time. They're like a Silicon Valley company where they're like, let's fail early and often in our attempts to tell people to look at some other thing besides the very incriminating bit of news that's right in front of their face. And Trump has tried all of that. He's tried the like, it was something to do with, look at this Obama and Russiagate thing. Oh, let me bomb Iran. Let me talk about, and let me say that it's a Democrat thing. No, bro, this is not a Democrat thing. Democrats are loving it, but that's the Wall Street Journal, my guy. These are your fans we're only your fans. And he's talked trash to them, called them his former supporters who are talking about this. These are people who got you there. And this is something that we've been saying about like fascist people, which is like they'll do anything to get the power. And once they're inside, they'll do everything they can to solidify that power. And then, I don't know, everybody watched that Mehdi Hasan thing where he's like sitting down with a bunch of fascists and they're like, no, it's fine. He's my fascist. It's cool. That's what they rely on. But like, it takes a slightly more sophisticated mind to say like, hey, take a look, buddy. Like you are relying on him liking you, and he's been through 3 wives. Do you think he doesn't even know your name? He doesn't care. He has no allegiances to anyone but himself.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.